energy prices and food prices are they're kind of counterintuitive in the sense that people automatically think it's going to be inflationary, but actually they create deflation because they destroy demand because people only have so much money,
Hmm.
and the more money they have to spend on these what I call have tos, they're not spending on the want tos. So it doesn't really contribute to net inflation, if you will. It contributes to an imbalance, and that imbalance actually causes deflation to come because people then basically just shut down. You know, for example, where I live, I just paid 6.20 a gallon.
Wow.
Yeah, $120 to fill up my tank. Now I'm fortunate. I work at home, but my daughter, who's just starting out in her career, she's spending almost $250 a month just to take her little Toyota Corolla back and forth to work every day. And that stuff eats into people's what I call their fun budget, their psychic budget, their budget that makes people want to live and enjoy life. And when that happens, then people tend to shut down. So I think these things tend to be self-correcting. Although most of these problems, as you know, Dave, we talked about this before, they're definitely these are self-inflicted wounds by the policymakers. One can argue it's out of incompetence, and one can argue that it's also out of some sort of policy event, a feature, if you will, not a bug in the system.
Well, it's starting to feel that way because we had Biden. He was giving a speech in, I think it was Tokyo, and he
Bragging
said,
about it.
yeah, what?
Bragging about it.
Right, yeah, that we're transitioning away from fossil fuels, and this is going to be a good thing. And what's very interesting is that everything that he's doing, his administration is doing, is the opposite of what you should be doing. So when you say, well, is this something that they're really pushing it? It's seeming like they are, because we know from the World Economic Forum, from what Biden just said, and all his policies, they're doing the opposite of what they're telling us. And I had thoughts on the strategic petroleum reserves, where he continually uses this to offset things, or tries to offset it, or ships it overseas. If we are truly moving into green energy like they want, wouldn't you want to get rid of the strategic petroleum reserves while you're doing this? And it seems like this is exactly what they want to do. But are we ready to go to green energy? Can we go to green energy? Is it even possible?
No, not for at least the next 20, 25 years. Let's do a magic wand and say that, everybody has an electric car tomorrow. We just don't have the infrastructure. Think about this for a second, just the simplest thing in the world. You live in a city and you have a car, okay? Where are you plugging it in every night? I live in the suburbs. I have a garage. I don't have an electric car yet, but I can plug mine in, I can put solar on my roof. I can control my destiny a little bit. But people in the cities they're subject to the whims of the electric company, assuming that you can even generate enough spare capacity. The transformers, the lines, they can't carry enough. And, in Hawaii is really interesting. I started my solar energy career. People probably don't realize this, but I owned a solar energy company for 16 years. So I know what I'm talking about here. And I actually started in Hawaii, because it was even before California was starting. And Hawaii, they saturated the grid. And so they stopped letting people do it because it was causing grid instability. So this will just create massive grid instability across the board. And it just makes it, basically not possible to do it. I don't care what people tell you, you'd have to spend probably 3, 4, $500 billion, over the next 10 to 15 years. And how about all the right of ways? You have to put more power lines in. Can you imagine the NIMBY on all that stuff? So it's insane. And solar and wind, they're kind of site specific. Like, I can't take all the solar I generate in Arizona and send it to Connecticut, right?
Right.
So the Northeast is particularly vulnerable to this. I live in California. If I choose to, I still have room in my house. I can go off grid completely. I can buy an electric car and I can be completely off grid. You can't do that in the Northeast. I'm talking about, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, those places. They're blocking natural gas lines coming in too. So I don't know what these people are thinking. They're basically going to make themselves back to the Stone Age here in the next 10 or 15 years. They literally have to ship in liquefied natural gas from another country, which defeats all the purposes anyway. Crazy stuff.
Right. I mean, even our electric now today, even if we're using the electric grid, it's powered by what? Coal. It's powered by oil in a lot of places. So, I mean, we're not getting away from it. We're just using more of it in a different location.
Yeah. So the West Coast and the East Coast elites, they don't like anything dirty near them. So they want Arizona and the desert to produce all their energy for it and ship it in, via power lines, right? So, but they won't NIMBY anything. Remember when they tried to put those things out in front of Johannesburg? The Kennedys about had a cow,
right?
Throw a windmill up in their view, right? So they just talk out of both sides of their mouth.
We've been talking about food shortages for a long time now, and you've been talking about fertilizer and everything like that. And we had this baby formula shortage, which is still going on. And it seems that there was really nothing wrong with the plant. It looks like this was generated to push the agenda forward. And now we're shipping in baby formula from other countries. It's almost like we've become a third world country. We need humanitarian aid and they need to ship in food to this country. And then all of a sudden we have Jif Peanut Butter that came out with a story about salmonella in peanut butter, now recalling all the peanut butter, making people afraid to eat peanut butter. I mean, is this the World Economic Forum? Is this their push to where they want us to eat bugs and grass and things like that and get away from food?
Yeah, it's the American version of it because they basically used the regulatory, executive branch to basically, they shut down the plant that produces 90% of the baby formula in this country. First of all, they always talk about the left always talks about antitrust, but they've never done anything to make sure that we have a diversified baby formula, manufacturing process, right? So we create this thing where only one company makes all this stuff. Same with, remember when that fire when Texas had their that winter and they shut down their power thing,
right?
It destroyed the manufacturing plant. One single plant that produces most of the paint precursors. So we ran out of paint for a while because of this stuff. They do these things and they know where the choke points are and then they press on the choke points. Yeah, we can call this WEF with an American flag wrapped around it.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. And they're also out in Davos right now. And it's funny because they took all their private planes to Davos. They're riding in their long limousines, which is using fossil fuels. And they're telling everyone else, oh, you shouldn't be doing this. And
yeah, that's crazy. I mean, and that's so old now. They've been doing, they're just in your face now.
Yeah.
They're basically trying to create the neo-feudal society again, Dave. Shut up. We'll make the decisions. You live in your squalor. And we'll live in our enclaves.
And we can see with the World Economic Forum, I mean, they continually push their agenda where we need a recalibration of free speech. We need to, they want to put on a carbon tax. And this way they can track everything that you do and surveil you as you move forward. And if you use up all your, points or whatever it is, credits, you can't purchase anything and they can track everything that you do. I mean, this is what are we turning into China, I guess.
Yeah, I know. Deutsche Telekom working with who? Then you have Alibaba. Well, of course, it's a Chinese company that can track everything. Yeah, look, excuse me. Yeah, they definitely want us to get their day because the bankers want to be able to control the money supply, but they also want to be able to control the acceleration, the velocity of the money too. So they want to be able to go in there and say, hey, Dave, you and Bob, you've been saving too much. So either you have to spend it or we're taxing you for it. That's what they want to do. They literally want to sit there and you have the Oz behind a curtain trying to micromanage these economies by being able to control everybody's bank accounts. Look, that's their I think their nirvana if they can get there, and they're thinking, hey, if we do this, then crime's going to fall because you can't really do this or that or the other thing, so, here's my thing is I think they're going to run out of runway, Dave, before they get to their goal. I just think that, you notice they're putting barbed wire and fences up around everything now because they know they're blowing this thing up and people are not happy.
Yeah, I see that all over the place. And what's very interesting is that Right now, right now we don't have a global economic shutdown. There's really not a pandemic, even though they're trying to gin one up again, monkeypox and all these other things. But people now are going about their everyday lives and they're watching this, and you can see the poll numbers, and they know it's not just Biden. They know this goes ways beyond this, and the poll numbers are awful. They're saying, listen, the economy is in the dumpers. I mean, over 70%. So, I mean, some polls have it a little bit less, some have it a little bit more, but let's say the average, about 70% of the people are saying, we know what's going on here. The economy's bad. We're heading in the wrong direction. This is awful, and we want this to end. And it seems that the people aren't going along with what they want. And like you said, I don't think they're going to be able to get this thing off the ground at all.
Yeah, I mean, look, these guys, I mean, they need a new marketing campaign. I mean, the optics of everything they do is ass backwards.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you're a Democrat strategist, right, when you know that white women, right, the black population and Hispanics were your mainstay, and you turn right around and you enact policies that alienate white women, Hispanics, in their social order, and you basically continue to ignore the black population. It's a recipe for disaster, and you can see it in the polling data. I mean, they literally, it's almost like they don't care. It's like, they're just doubling down on chaos because they're unable to enact a policy because they're so caught up in their rhetoric. It's just amazing to me.
It really is. And as Biden continually pushes the policies, actually Obama in the basement talking to Biden, and then you have the people above him, the stock market lately, I mean, it's been fluctuating, but it took a dive. Do you think the market is falling apart?
This is a very, very, very interesting market. So we're having something happen that's never happened before. If it happens by Friday, we would have 8 weeks down straight in a row. It's never happened before. 7 straight weeks we had it in 1932, which actually formed a bottom. But the problem we had, Dave, is they pushed so much money into the system for the pandemic that wasn't necessary. It could have been much more targeted. And now that's all draining back out again. And so we're going to have to get down to another probably 20% to get to what I don't want to call it fair value, but it'd be fair value if the economy was moving. So, so we probably have, I don't want to scare anybody because it's not going to happen next week, but we're probably going to have between now and maybe next September, we'll be down another 30 to 35% in the stock market. We'll get some sort of lift here at some point this summer because they're going to, the Federal Reserve's they're not going to be raising into the election. But then going into 2023 recession will take hold. Recession's inevitable at this point. And then that's what we call it the long goodbye market, Dave, where it just kind of slowly drifts away. And that's what's going to happen. So, but it's really weird. This is the most telegraphed sell-off I've ever seen in my life. There are places which you can hide in this market. There's places where you can thrive in this market. It's not like 2008 where somebody just threw a hand grenade in a room and the whole thing imploded. There are places where you can move, you can rotate into, and you can make money, and you can totally avoid most of what's happening here. It's very targeted right now around tech and companies that don't make money. Those are the companies that are getting hammered right now.
And it's very, very clear. I mean, the same time that this has happened, Bitcoin has been moving down. I mean, it got below 30,000. And actually, a couple episodes ago when I interviewed you, I think you even said that it might get down to that point. And I think you were spot on with that. And once again, I mean, for the reasons that you told me that back then, do they still hold? They're just going to stay there for a while and then start to move back up?
Yes. So our view is, I think I told you 27,000. I think it went down to 26,000, popped up to 30. And then now our view is that there's a gap. See, people don't realize, well, maybe people do realize that there's a futures contract on Bitcoin, and there's a gap at 23,000-ish area between futures and the continuous contract of Bitcoin itself. Bitcoin never stops trading, but the futures contracts can have gaps in it. So we think there's still a distinct possibility that we can come down and touch 23K before we get into the fall and you get into the halving cycle again, which should lift the market. But let me explain to people why Bitcoin's doing what it's doing. And I know you want to ask me about gold too. Gold actually is getting a lift here now, is that the dollar's been extraordinarily strong, Dave. And so, if you're Bitcoin into dollars and you're gold into dollars, you're suffering from an overly strong dollar.
Hmm.
Okay. But if you're Bitcoin to Turkish lira and you're gold to Turkish lira, you're like, Dave and Bob, I don't know what you're talking about. It's flying where I live. So it's a lot of it to do with the dollar being extraordinarily strong. And the reason being is that Japan and Europe and China and England they almost think it was a collusion of them reducing the value of their currencies and pushing the dollar up. And so that's why Bitcoin and the 10-year yield was going up too. So Bitcoin and gold don't like a strong dollar, and they don't like a strong what I call sell-off in the bond market. As those two things abate and people the smoke clears and people see that there's sovereign risk, Bitcoin and gold and silver are going to do just fine. And in fact, the gold miners, I've been in them now for the last couple months, and my portfolio is fine, Dave.
Mm.
And today was a nice day. We just added again to a gold position. We went back into Barrick Gold for a trade. So that it's very tradable right now, even though it's kind of in a range. It's not collapsing like you would expect to collapse, like what happened in 2008. These things are actually trading in tradable ranges. And as long as you're not like hodling any of this stuff, or just, putting it away, you can swing these trades. They're big enough to make money on these trades.
So how did your algorithms handle the market volatility, Bitcoin going down? You expected Bitcoin to go down. Gold dropped down a little bit. How did you weather this storm? Were you prepared for it?
Yeah. So remember we talked last time is that the first 2 weeks of this sell-off, we were kind of caught too, because it usually doesn't go straight down like that. And then we adjusted very quickly. And basically the last 5 or 6 weeks, we've been doing just fine. So we've been making money nearly every day. And the bond market stopped selling off. So we had people in bond. We've been trading in and out of the energy names. We've been trading in and out of the uranium names. So yeah, so we're doing good. So our track record is still intact. 2 out of every 3 trades are positive. Our profit factor is positive. People can see that on our website. We track every trade we put out there in real time. And we're comfortable. And we've been buying food stocks too. So we've been making money in food too, Dave. And because we're going into summer, USDA is going to start reporting that the U.S. economy and the U.S. Agriculture market is going to be short these crops. So we're long gold. I mean, we're long corn. We're long soybeans. We just did a nice wheat trade. We made 10% in 3 days. So yeah, we're comfortable where we are. So, we're eyes wide open now. And so we think we have a good sense of the market, and our algorithm is seeing it. So we're happy.
So for those people that never traded before, they want to get into trading, do you have any specials running this month?
Yeah, we do. So we went ahead and we put bundles together if you want to trade the stock market. We want to trade the crypto market. And we have something really cool. I don't talk about it too much, but we have a room called the VIP room. It costs just a little bit more than these other 2 rooms, but you actually get to talk with us like you and I. And we're in there all the time. One of 3 of us are in there from basically 5:30 in the morning until 1 p.m. my time. And so you can ask questions. We'll teach you how to trade. Next time we talk, I'll show you an attaboy that somebody gave us, talked about how he grown in 6 weeks just being in this room, about how to make trades, how to journalist trades, how to basically learn how to manage stops and things like that. So that's what we do to help people there. So we have these bundles. They're 65% off, Dave. They're good till Saturday. And if you don't want anything bundled, you can buy things here and there. You can get education. You can get just our signals. But if you get the bundles, you get the chat room, you get the signals, you get the training information, and we give you access to our algorithm. So you just get on TradingView, and then we give you access to it as long as you're a client. So yeah, thanks for letting me pitch that. Promo code Memorial if you get anything non-bundle, 40% off. Bundled is already pre-discounted, 65% off.
Great. I'll put all the links at the bottom of the video to make it a lot easier for everyone to go over there. I just wanted to stay on the subject of Bitcoin for a sec, because we're seeing Brazil, Central Africa, El Salvador. They're all making moves towards Bitcoin, making it legal tender. Actually, Brazil now, you're able to purchase real estate with Bitcoin. It seems that there are countries now transitioning away from fiat currency, bringing in Bitcoin, making it legal tender. And it seems that this is building and building and building. Do you see in the future some of these countries and other countries moving into just Bitcoin and conducting business and having the people just use Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is what I think. This is what the Bitcoin, apostles have been hoping for a long time, and I think the Lightning Network's going to help with that. And yeah, absolutely. Remember, people talked about the multi party world instead of the uni party with the United States. Well, all these other currencies thought they'd be part of it. It's going to end up being the dollar and Bitcoin, and probably, a commodity based kind of basket too. And yeah, absolutely. And, also in the United States, one of my partners has a lot of Bitcoin, doesn't want to sell it. He has very, very low cost basis. And he just got a note from his bank that says if he wanted to do a mortgage, they would honor the collateral of Bitcoin as a pledge.
Really? Wow.
So, yeah, so it's becoming more and more mainstream. I think Bitcoin would really, really benefit if the SEC approved an ETF for it that's not structured the way it is currently. And I think the SEC is holding off on that because I'm sure the bankers are like screaming, "Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it." But somebody's going to do it around the world. And once that happens, then people can have a liquid ability to trade in and out of Bitcoin, without using a broker, and I think that's going to be very healthy. The altcoins kind of stay away. They're a little scary now. I think we're kind of finding out people don't know what they don't know about it, but Bitcoin's a sure thing in terms of you understand how Bitcoin operates. So, at least you're buying that asset with open eyes.
Yeah, and also with countries making this legal tender, it does make it easier to use internationally, and you don't even have to carry it. I mean, just like now with the digital currency, it seems that it does make it a lot easier to use. And hey, if I wanted to go to Brazil, it's my Bitcoin here. I just use it. You don't have to go, oh, how much do I have to convert it into, and do I have to get the other paper currency? I think as we move forward, I think this will be a lot easier for the future for people to use this. And plus, it has nothing to do with the private Western Central Bank.
Right. You don't get shaken down across the border because you don't declare anything.
Right.
Because technically it's in the country you're from. Until you get to another country, then it's technically in the country you're at.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's, confiscation's a much, much, much riskier business than they could do with, going to your bank account, just stealing your stuff, So, yeah, look, there's a lot of benefits to Bitcoin. Our view is you need some in your portfolio.
Right.
And here's the thing, you don't know till you don't know. At end of March, people didn't see April and May coming. Okay, I guarantee you that. That's how fast things can change. And we've seen it. You've probably seen it in your zeitgeist because you're out every day talking to people. But something happened the second week of April, like some sort of light switch went off in people's psyche. And these things happen fast. And if you're not prepared, you're going to miss moves. And I think that's what's going to happen with gold, silver, and Bitcoin, the suppression. And the next thing you know it, boom, wow, 10% up. Oh, that's not going to happen. Boom, next day up again. And we've seen it with gold and silver, and we've seen it with Bitcoin. And it's going to happen again. And people that are going to be left flat-footed are going to be afraid to get in until it's too late. And so my thing is drill, baby, drill. Own energy stocks, own Bitcoin, own gold stocks, own silver stocks, okay, and own uranium, and I think and food. You're going to be in good shape. People have to have these things, Dave.